Hi, everybody. I'm Con. I'm your host of the Fruity Rumpus Asshole podcast. And I want to introduce you to my guests, or my co hosts, Sahxyel, who is the creator of Alternate Mayoverse. No, not
Hello.
Mayoverse, Mayerverse.
Hard R.
Yes, hard R there. And then our guest Tart, and my co host Tart.
Wait,
Uh, so, Grell, sorry, Grell, Saxel is also called Grell in other circles, and I call her that on accident, and so does Tart. So, Saxel and Grell are the same person, and I just want to let you know that. Now, Saxel, tell me
Yeah.
about Alternate Mayorverse, and why is it such an abomination?
Alternate Mayorverse is a fan venture that I wrote, which is about WV basically snapping and killing people on the meteor. It's based kind of around the same concept as Alternate Universe, which encompasses the whole similar idea of a character snapping and killing everyone on the meteor, except that time it's
wait.
Nepeta.
Yeah, and I mean, Alternate Universe,
Yeah,
classic,
alternate.
absolute classic. I think
Pinnacle
we
of
can all agree
artistic
on that.
achievement.
Yeah, alternate Mayorverse is kind of riffing on the same idea, but it's with the mayor, so it's probably twice as ridiculous.
We also are going to have another guest, Phoebe, the creator of I'm Good, I'm Gone.
Ugh, love it.
Probably one of the greatest fan ventures ever created. Definitely the most pussy poppin' fan venture, but unfortunately her boss is kind of a dick and wouldn't let her get off work on time. But we'll
Yeah.
continue without her, and hopefully she'll be on in the next episode. She was really excited. But now that we got some introductions out of the way, why don't we talk about recent Homestuck news? Uh, Recently, as of January 31st, the Pester Quest route for Jane has been announced, and I think we all have a few opinions on that. My opinion is that it looks bland. It looks really bland. I'm not a fan of it. The way they drew Jane was really bland and boring, and I just think bad overall. It's not even again. They drew her kind of chubby, but I have nothing against that. It's just I just
I,
don't like that art.
honestly, the art is not very appealing. It's not terrible, but it's not very appealing either, which I think kind of feeds into how I think Jane is meant to be portrayed, especially lately with all the new Homestuck material, where she's supposed to kind of be a villain with how she's being portrayed. So of course you don't want to make her too likable when you make a Pester Quest route about her. Or at least that's what my impression is, honestly.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation to be in, making a piece of content about a character who's developed so much over the course of something that's been quite vapid, honestly.
Uh,
At least in terms of narrative, God knows it's been years since we've actually seen anything Homestuck related up until the epilogue.
yeah, it was is Pester. Now I haven't been following Pester Quest too closely. Is Pester Quest taking place when the kids are still 16, 13 to 16? Are they fully adults? Like, is this post Homestuck?
Here's something
Free
really weird
Homestuck.
about it is that it's kind of like retconning Homestuck almost.
Oh,
Yeah, the main character, the MS Paint adventure guy, like in my circles we call him Miss Par, MSPAR, the reader, whatever. But this character gets retcon powers and decides to change around the story to help these kids out. He shows up retconning himself into the story and ends up kind of breaking the story by preventing Suburb from happening and fooling
Followed
around
by
with everyone's
Angular
fate.
Act 7 and the very late, very relatable to some, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
feels very candy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd call it that in a manner of speaking. It definitely starts as sort of wish fulfillment, especially when it peaks at Jade's route, where Jade gets everything she deserves. but afterwards it's just like Homestuck, it gets a little weaker when the trolls come in. Got him.
Oh man, that's a spicy opinion. And also there was the update for on the Patreon about Wayward Vagabond. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to read it. It's paywalled right now, but Sahxyel has, and I think Tart has as well. So why don't you guys speak on that a little bit?
It's something. It's definitely a world building dump to build up on what PM and WV were doing with their new world that they had to kind of build up after the kids ditched out on them to jump forward 5,000 years.
Irresponsible little shits that they are.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure Dave probably talked them all into doing that, honestly, because he's an irresponsible little shit.
And he just against carapacians.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, wasn't it they kind of just did some ectobiology on themselves and then immediately jumped 5,000 years in the future, leaving all the children and grubs unattended or to be raised by carapacians and consorts?
Yeah.
But for Roxy, I guess.
Wow. So Dave and all the kids have infinite offspring
that they abandoned in the past.
Yeah.
Real dead parents. Continuing the brew tradition very strong.
Wow. That's quite sad. I never thought of it like that, but John, Dave, and all the rest of the kids are deadbeat parents. And they probably owe so much child support. It's ridiculous.
To be fair, for a bunch of the troll grubs they left behind, their parents are dead.
Yep.
Yeah, very true.
Frickin' rest in peace.
Dear sweet Nepeta.
Now, I got a big question. Is this good at all? Is this a good update? What do you guys think?
I'd say it's the best paywalled update so far, but that's damning with faint. Really, really damning with faint face, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like the information that you get from it, it feels like it's patching a hole that was very glaring to anybody who cared about WV as a character and cared about his goals of democracy and seeing how it doesn't exist really in Earthsea 5,000 years later with 4 kingdoms and a president.
Yeah.
That apparently.
Yeah, that did kind of like put me off. How like they immediately created or divided Earthsea into 4 ethnostates.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah.
a little
And
real spicy.
Yeah, why would they do that? I don't understand that. And I also don't understand. Well, no, I do understand it. I really enjoy. They didn't world build much, and they didn't do much world building in the epilogues, and that's about as far as I've read along with Homestuck. But in the world building and epilogues, it was so sparse, and they just kind of mentioned, hey, there's 4 kingdoms now, and and then there's no money issues, but also there is issues with the trolls the trolls potentially taking over. And I kind of did enjoy the discourse about how do we make these superhuman and violent trolls, and how do we integrate them to society with the peaceful carapacians and the reasonably the peaceful consorts and the warmongering, but still not self-genocidal human. Well, no, not even that.
You kind of have to pause there, but like honestly, anyone who points at humanity and says this is as bad as troll society needs to go away. Honestly, shut up.
Yeah,
go hang around in like Cambodia for a few months. Get a time machine.
Yeah, but I enjoyed how they were talking about. I mean, if humanity is a 12 on a 10 on the violence scale, humanity trolls are like a 15. Man, there's something else. How they integrate the trolls into the much relatively more peaceful kingdoms. But then that took a sideline because the epilogues are hot take here. The epilogues are terrible.
Oh, that's some spicy opinion you got there, bro.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but the epilogues are terrible. And but
It's
back,
okay.
yeah.
I know you got an ulcer.
God, yes, I did. I think I actually did get an ulcer from reading the epilogues. I binge read it, and it was stressful. It was a very.
I told you not
Hussey
to.
called me physical pain.
It did though. It really did. I have done a lot of very complicated research as part of my university studies, and I've read in the past year. I have read at least 500 to 600 pages of very dry, very boring, very technical engineering documents and scientific reports, and I found all of that way more enjoyable than the 83, 84 chapters of the epilogues.
The prose of the epilogues is more dry than a PubMed article. Like,
yeah, reading the epilogues, Tart, you described it once. It was like drinking a thick milk. It was like reading a thick milkshake through a straw, like a real. The words are. It's so many words and so little meaning, and I had to. It's so
Dense.
dense.
I don't know if they.
No, it's not dense. It's airy.
No.
It's fluffy. There's so many words, but so little meaning. They use so many big, long words to say nothing at all. Really?
That's a really good way to put it, honestly.
Paragraphs made of cheese balls.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The epilogues, man. I think we could dedicate an entire episode to just discussion on the epilogues. Barring
Don't. I'd have to read it again.
Yeah, I mean,
again.
I think at that point we might. We'd have to go through a lot of physical pain to get up to date on that. But let's transition back to the update. Do we have any other opinions on the update that we've brought up that we haven't brought up yet?
It seems honestly like not that much care was put in it, considering how this would, what implications this would have for WV's character.
Yeah, WV, like, this feels kind of like it was tacked on. Like, there was some, like, pushback with people going, oh, where's WV? Why are there kingdoms here? This seems entirely against what he would want, considering that this is the same character who rallied both sides of Prospect and Durst on the battlefield to rise up against their king in a glorious revolution. He hates kings.
Yeah, it feels a lot like any executive office. Seems sort of out of character for him.
Yeah.
He's a mayor. He's not a president.
And yeah, it's kind of like ceremonial. There's like a parliamentary kind of feeling for how this democracy is set up, to where the mayor doesn't have like any.
It is described as a parliament, more or less.
Yeah. When he's like the figurehead monarch, except he's not really a monarch, and there's something really ironic about that.
Are you gonna, in your next update of alternate Mayorverse, are you going to make a reference to this?
Oh, well, maybe not the next update, because we're looking for Gamzee right now. But eventually.
Yeah, you could do a nice pushback with it. Not telling you what to write, but you could send a nice pushback back with this update. And
Oh, it's happening. It's definitely happening somehow.
The freedom of speech reveals all in the end.
It does reveal all in the end.
there, the one thing I'm just you're saying it's a bunch of world building, and the one thing that just makes me a little sad is that Homestuck has been so averse to world building, and I really wish I really wish there was what's the Lord of the Rings document about it?
There's a whole bunch, but you're probably
The
thinking of
the Silmarillion. I think Homestuck really needs a Silmarillion written by Hussey.
Do you really want
Hussey?
Hussey to write a Silmarillion? Honestly,
The Homestuck universe is yeah, I do and I don't. But it needs more world building because we've been watching Homestuck for 11 years at this point. It came out in 2009.
well, to be fair, I didn't start reading Homestuck until 2015, at the very, very end of the constant updates happening.
Yeah, true. That is true. I didn't start reading until 2012. But anyway, Homestuck has been going around for 11 years. Obama had just taken office when Homestuck started, and now we're almost into potentially Trump's second term, and we still don't know what the fuck half the aspects in class do.
What the aspects, you could say the extended Zodiac basically tells you what the aspects are supposed to be, I guess. Although if you want to know anything about the classes,
yeah,
good luck.
Go check the wiki and read some fan theories.
Yeah, like it's getting to the point where we've turned to fan theories. It feels like the discussion of class specs kind of feels like R plus L equals J for a long time. If anyone's read Game of Thrones, people have been, until they revealed it in the show, which made me very angry. But people have been waiting since Bill Clinton was in office.
Rest in peace.
They'd been waiting since Bill Clinton was in office to understand who the fuck was Jon Snow's parents. Really,
people have probably died not knowing if the theory was real.
That very true.
That's actually really sad to think about.
Yeah.
Oof.
I figured out the theory my sophomore year in high school, and I have graduated college. And I graduated college when I figured out that R plus L did indeed equal J.
Man, I'm so glad to know that Doom really is just suffering the aspect, and there's no actual good way to have Doom as an aspect unless you're a prince or a bard.
And then those are basically the designated cunt classes anyway.
Yeah, imagine that.
Alright, let's go on to our next topic, though. Sahxyel, you mentioned when we were planning the podcast about you had a great monologue prepared for how John has gotten done dirty in Homestuck.
I had a very long rambling thing about that, but I think I'm going to just cut it down to a very succinct thing that states that John Egbert is the designated protagonist of Homestuck. You can see it following through Homestuck, considering he has narrative focus and narrative power, and even eventually gains the power to retcon the actual story itself. He is the example of the hero's journey. He is the vehicle by which we, the readers, learn about the world initially before we start jumping around different characters and following them.
Yeah, up until the Trolls round, we mostly learned about Burb through John's eyes.
Yeah, it was a learning experience through him, and
we jumped around with the other kids, but his was a very...
Yeah, it always felt like they were supporting John, and John, they were supporting cast to John, and John really was the main character when it comes to from Act 1 to Act 4.
Yep. You watch his journey, and he's also the one that doesn't really know everything that's going on. Anything significant he does or that he learns, you watch on the screen. Rose gets more off screen the more she tries to, subvert the story, subvert everything. Jade is not even a character for a long time because she's off screen. She's a big surprise. And she comes in knowing things and then not knowing things, which is like her thing. And then you have Dave. Who is Dave?
There's a lot to say about Dave.
Dave is an episode in and of himself.
Yeah.
And Dave is an episode. And I don't want him and his prodigious, narrative importance on Homestuck to eclipse John right now, because that makes me a very salty marshmallow.
Ooh, a salty marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
I've never thought of that, and I don't want to think about it anymore. But go ahead and continue.
Sorry. So, John is he's supposed to be like this character, kind of like the Luke Skywalker of the story. He's the main character. He doesn't know what's going on. He has to follow the directions of other people until he presumably will come into his own and be the hero that he has to be, help his friends, whatever. Except that never happens. We never have that moment where John takes the reins onto himself and goes, I'm going to fix this. He just stays in his lane and just is told how to fix things from other people. Other people who may or may not.
There's a very distinct line from Scratch that I don't remember the entirety of. About John.
And what is it?
This boy will not die.
A scoundrel. Yeah, that line.
Yeah, he won't die without accomplishing.
It was basically like saying he was going to accomplish something significant, and by the implication, he would not die a just death. It would be a heroic death for whatever means that was. And in normal Homestuck, you never actually see that. You never see John go through that experience himself.
You don't. Now, it's probably a bit silly, a bit spoiler territory here, but spoilers for the epilogues anyway. In some way, in the meat volumes of the epilogues, he does. So you can't say the same about the other.
Yeah. Although John, as a character and why he's done dirty is he loses everything significant the entire story. And I feel like if John is supposed to be the vehicle for the audience, then in a way he also represents the audience as they kind of lose anything significant the longer the story goes on as well. Their grips on the friendships of the characters with John, the understanding of the world around John, and ultimately what's important kind of just all slips away. Anything that you're attached to slips away. And it crescendos into, the epilogues, at least with Meet John, where he dies. And that's it.
Yeah, that was just incredibly just soul crushing. Like, oh, John is dead now, and stuffed into a wallet. Like,
and no one cares he's dead.
Yeah, they just say like, hey, where's John? Oh, I don't know. And Terezi, being the bitch she is, just doesn't even tell people that John is dead, that we had sex in a car.
I mean, I probably wouldn't tell everyone that I had sex with John in the car either, honestly. While he was dying. But she could... One person did ask. I think it was Roxy. Was it Roxy that asked?
Roxy asked about John, but then that's it. She didn't, care that much. She's like, where's John? Oh, I haven't seen him. And then she's like, oh, I miss the boy.
Haha, blind joke, because she can't see.
That's a great one.
Comedy gold. I feel like if they were going to kill off John, they did it in the best way that they could. The problem is in the reaction of everyone else.
John's a good boy. He's such a good boy. He deserved better. Better friends.
Candy, fucking...
What did John, let's just stick with Homestuck. what did
Yeah,
John end with? Everybody else got all of these major character revelations. They discovered who they were. Rose became uh Rose knew so much. She gained an amazing partner in Kanaya. Dave learned tons about himself and came to a realization. And didn't he like come to terms with how he was treated as a child by Bro Strider? We don't need to get too much, but I think he forgave
yeah.
Bro.
I don't think he forgave Bro
Regardless of what
necessarily.
happened, which is an episode in its own.
Yeah,
it was
because
definitely
Dave
a
is
direct-
like Dave is a giant topic, and his gravity well will grab us if we linger too long on him.
Suffice to say, it wasn't ignored.
Yeah, Dave's problems weren't ignored.
Yeah, and John loses his father, loses his friends, loses everything. His house is a mess compared to what John loses everything but the house that he was forced to destroy and reconstruct.
Truly, we become Homestuck.
And I think it does mirror what happens to the reader because, geez, I think just by reading it, we've lost several thousand brain cells.
Not to mention about half of the fandom.
Yeah.
Say it's a hell of a lot more than half.
More, yeah. Whoever's listening to this podcast, I hate to say it, but you're a nerd, and you're a nerd, and you've been clinging to a dead comic that has been creeping along for the past 4 years. I don't know. No, not even 4. 6 years.
And I will agree. I'm a nerd for participating in this and talking about it. I got in late. What can I say?
I mean, we are nerds as well, but reader or listener,
Nerds
so are you.
Fueled by spite.
Yes, we are nerds fueled by spite. We've dedicated so much time to this media franchise that we just can't let it die, and we can't stop talking about it. And John kind of does represent us. We've lost so much. John has lost so much. John came out of Homestuck with nothing. And then if you take it to the epilogues, John had nothing at the end either. John died with none of his friends really caring about him. The only person, literally the only person who's had intimate contact with him in his life, just unceremoniously, one, she basically killed the motherfucker because she kept saying, "Stay with me, John. Stay in this car. Stay in this car," or something. When he's like, "Hey, why don't we just go home?" So yeah, and then didn't tell anybody that John was dead. He just went out with a whimper, and he was he's the main character. What the fuck?
Well, what's sad about that too is Terezi is culpable for not telling people that John's dead, but at the same time, nobody cares where he is or what happened to him. And so, does that really make everyone who he knew people who cared about him, if that's their reaction, if they don't care that he's gone missing, that he doesn't answer anybody or doesn't try talking to them? And the answer is kind of obvious. It's like a big no.
Honestly, this feels like a sequel hook, Homestuck 2 hook. The cataloging of his corpse.
I mean,
that feels like a Chekhov's gun to me, honestly. I've written a very in-depth theory about that on the MSPA forums regarding the situation with John's corpse, cherub poison, and why Calliope and Caliborn's...
Wait, Calliope? 1 second, I'm sorry. I rarely hear the term Callio. That's how I pronounce it.
Oh, gosh.
I rarely hear it pronounced. So
Calliope is a real word.
Right. I call her Calliope because I've heard her called Calliope, but I call her Calliope because I know about Calliopes.
I have no clue. I know about the Starlight is it Starlight Calliope? I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Whistles.
Yeah.
God, I love
Hey,
whistles.
when's Whistles gonna get finished, Hussy? Please.
Never.
Oh my god. Okay, so I've been pronouncing it wrong my whole life. Sorry, I had to get that aside since it was like I think that's like the third time I've ever heard someone say the name Calliope or Calliope or whatever it is. All right, continue. Sorry.
Well, like that. The whole thing I was like building on is like I feel like John's a Chekhov's gun for the continuing thing of Caliborn versus Calliope. Their like sibling rivalry that rises to like crazy freaking heights as they try to one up each other. So
But isn't it now? It's now Calliope versus Dirk.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I want to
That.
point out something about that real quick. This jumps back in the regular Homestuck is that you don't see Lord English first. Your first like villain after Beck Noir is Doc Scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Dirk is the Doc Scratch here, and they even share the same initials, DS.
They
Yeah, and Homestuck
influence
is
each other a great deal.
A
yeah.
lot of people are saying, nah, that's not going to happen, whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, you're probably right, but I'm still going to theorize it, so here you go.
Homestuck does have a lot of too cute, like it's too clever for their own good. Little things like that, like oh the initialisms, ha 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 ha. So I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, like I said, I'd like to see that kind of come to fruition or something like that, but I don't expect it. Plus, it would disappoint me anyway because I don't feel like John deserves what I think will happen to him, like what happened with Jade. Jade is going to be another very long, touchy topic for me.
Yep.
I hope they don't kind of just end up. He just ends up being weird plot, relegated to the wiki's weird plot shit section. And unfortunately, I think it's very possible that he's just not going to get touched on for years.
If
And-
that,
Well, God willing, the Homestuck 2 is updating twice a month, starting next month.
Candy John is
I'm-
actually alive.
True, but doesn't the epilogues follow their? Doesn't Homestuck 2 kind of like come out of meat? I haven't. I have not read Homestuck 2.
Well, kind of.
It
It
does.
actually follows both.
I'll have to.
because
I'll have to
you
read
have
up on it.
there is a point of view that includes the Candy children, who I'm pretty sure you know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
John's son, Vriska 3.0, and poor frickin' John's brother, Avros Crocker.
Oh no.
Gee, hussy, how come the fucking readers let you have 3 whole Viscas? In fact, not even 3 at this point. You've got 5
Yeah.
if you count in every circuit.
Yeah, and then you got Arania being counted there too.
Yeah, that makes the 5.
Oh, man, too many
So many
Vriskas.
spiders.
Yeah.
I
Let's
swear
get-
to God, we're going to end this story with 8.
No, we need the Day of the Fly Swatter.
Need the day of the raid.
Now, do we have any more points on how John got done dirty? How else did he get done dirty? Or should we move on to our next topic?
I think like just pointing out how narrative, like, oh, I know some people are gonna probably say, well, everyone's done dirty. It's not just John, but this topic is about John, so I want to say that John was done dirty just on the merit that he doesn't really get that much focus on like him to develop as a character compared to like the Lalondes and the Striders.
There's a
And
very
this is-
infamous picture around that I think captures this perfectly.
Yeah, I
What,
know
uh,
exactly what picture you're talking about.
If you've seen it, do you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, You're
I think
lucky.
I can. I could. When I look through it, I'll edit that picture in. Hopefully.
It's a
Uh,
very gross, to say the least, but it's a very good visual metaphor of how characters are treated, especially the main beta kids, the kids that we first grew attached to, first
Steel
followed.
Corridor is a fucking fluff.
he really is.
Really is a prophet.
God bless that man. God bless him for getting out of home.
Yeah, we're still stuck. Homestuck.
All right. Yes, and then also there's the classic John, do what I say. And that actually leads into our next topic. Tart, why don't you tell us about how breath does not equal freedom?
If breath is equated to freedom, then John is the worst breath player on the fucking planet. The man
Worse
has
than
no way.
Tavros?
Even Tavros had his measure of independence, even if it only got snatched away from him a couple months.
Did John ever have it? Yeah, really.
That's entirely where the phrase comes from. John's entire thing is doing what other people say.
I'll edit it in, but also there's the classic steel corridor picture. John, do what I say.
John, do what I say. John, do what I say. Yeah, it's just frickin' John constantly through the story being told what to do. He has like no actual freedom of will to do anything,
Yeah, and
despite even like being gifted the ability to do something.
Yeah, it's strange how like classpects stuff is sort of a beast of its own, if I'm being honest. So much of it is just pure conjecture, because we were given very little to go off of for years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
and then small weird gaps are put in, like hope, or the prince's, like what a prince does and what hope does, and what the bard does. They just tell little things about that, and you don't.
Classes have it even worse. They don't even have the zodiac, do they?
No, it's they don't. I think we were talking about it earlier. We really do need to. They really do need to finally fill in what classpects are, and maybe the famous user classpectedon can finally have some closure in his life to understand really what he's talking about.
The blade clanged eyewears of the world can sit down and rejoice. The work is done. The boots are blasted. Actually, quite funnily, I think I know. Well, you probably know who I'm talking about if you're listening to this, but someone's been. The Toblerone wish was in fact an explanation of a lot of sky and world building.
Oh, the Toblerone. Oh, one of the
Yeah.
Toblerone wishes was that.
Yeah, and it didn't work out for a couple of reasons, but it's nice to see that people still.
That's one of the that's things that make me really dislike Hussey, because the things that really do need to flesh out really do need to be granted to flesh out the franchise. He won't grant those wishes, but he grants Vriska's trans immediately, and
It's
Because
a
it doesn't
strange
really
thing.
matter. Oops, I probably said
Because-
something wrong there.
Here's the thing: the wish was granted at first, but it was OD optimistic duelist, known classpect person who was going to write it rather than Hussey himself, which is what most people would probably want.
yeah, I don't want to hear, like, is Hussey gonna overlook it, or is Hussey gonna, or is basically OD just gonna write it himself and Hussey's just gonna rubber stamp it?
That's
Yeah,
what it
that's
seems like.
my-
That seems like what Hussey's been doing for a long time, is just letting people write Homestuck for him and then rubber stamping it.
As we'll see where it goes from here, but I don't know. didn't pry too much. But if we do see something, I don't think it's going to be an Andrew Hussey of it.
Now, going back to the breath equals freedom thing, the classic Steel Corridor comic. John never gets anything. Does he even? He never gets any of his own decisions, because he starts off with Rose telling him what to do, then Terezi then telling him what to do, then Vriska telling him what to do, back to Terezi telling him what to do, to Rose telling him what to do, and then Homestuck
Even
ends.
Karkat gets it.
Yeah, Karkat. Well, Karkat was making decisions. He was telling everyone else what to do in the troll session. Karkat was the leader.
He has more fucking agency than the breath player.
That's the blood player. Big thing.
Yeah.
Well, he had agency. We need to put a very strong emphasis on had.
Yeah, I'd say the most egregious example is Terezi. Game over the retcon, you know all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the epilogues, has John didn't really have any agency until Candy, did he?
That was like probably the first choice he made. Not even Candy, just like the Candy meat choice was his, technically speaking.
But it was his, but then also, if we
not
because
it's ours.
And then also going into the meta bullshit, wasn't it kind of Dirk's? Dirk was in total control of everything at the whole time. I don't know if I read that. I don't know how I read that entirely. And also, I just want to say this: how the fuck did Dirk get so powerful? How the fuck do they take narrative control? Let's not answer that, but that's just a question that's on my brain, and they better answer that really solidly in Homestuck 2.
Ultimate selves, lol.
God knows the mag's working 3 times as hard as she is used to. So we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm.
But John never got in all of the epilogues. In half of it, Meat, he had no agency. He didn't even get the choice to go home because Terezi kept, even while he's sitting there dying in a car, Terezi's telling him to stay with him. John, do what I say. I don't even care if you die. And then in Candy, did he even choose to date Roxy, or did Roxy just start dating him and he didn't say anything else?
Like, that whole section is very weird and very rushed. She jumps at the idea of being with him, and everything just kind of goes into gear after that.
Yeah, I don't even think John chose to be in the relationship. I just think he was put into the relationship and he never denied it. And then Roxy divorced him. He didn't choose to end the relationship there. No, and then he did have agency. He did have some agency. He tried to get Tavros out of the situation.
He tried to kidnap Tavros. What a freaking beautiful man.
And then
John is such husband material to not want to let his brother, who is the same age as his son, go through that experience and protect him. I freaking think John is a hero for that, and that whole segment really soured me on literally everybody else.
And then Jade immediately said, was it Jade who stopped him?
Jade was the guard dog. She basically alerted everybody else that he was trying to do this, instead of immediately jumping with him going, yeah, you're right, let's take him.
Even with my issues with that whole plot line in general, like good fucking lord.
That moment
was
really
a character defining moment for John.
That was a satisfying moment that was denied him, but damn, he tried, and he threw a fit about it too. He used his windy powers and everything. What a good boy.
John really had 2, and then another bit of John's agency was he got to say, "I'm not a homosexual." He got to turn down Karkat. So in total, John turned down Karkat. That's agency in itself. No one was telling him to do that. He got to choose meat or candy dubiously, and and then either way, both happened. So did he really choose? And then in candy, he chose to kidnap Tavros and change his situation. Everything else he's been told, even him letting, quote, big quotes there, letting Jake and Tavros stay with him at the end of Candy. I don't think Jake and Tavros would have left. I don't think they would have let him say no, because Jake would have started crying and bitching or something.
Probably.
Yeah, I think. And then he has a soft spot for Tavros, so John has had three, as far as I can remember, John has had 3 choices he's had to make. And one is kinda yes and kinda no. And then he gets the one choice of agency, the one thing he does on his own was taken away from him by his sister. So John had one decision that was truly his, that he got to make without any interference. And that was he got to turn down Karkat. It's sad, but it's also hilarious.
Honestly, if there's something that can be said, I think I felt really triumphant for Candy John, when he made that choice to want to help save Tavros from his terrible life. And that felt very John to me, too.
From seeing his dad getting cucked by a unwashed clown. Ugh. That's when we get to Jane or Jake or whatever, or epilogues, we could talk about how uncomfortable that made me.
That whole situation.
Now, I think we've talked enough about the agency of John. Why don't we talk about, Girl, you had one more thing to talk about, and it was about some hypocrisy within the fandom.
Oh,
and this one's gonna be spicy, so let's let her talk.
Here is the spicy thing. There's a hypocrisy in the fandom that I've noticed, and it drives me up a wall. And it loops around to my first topic, which is about John being done dirty, and partially the reason why I think people do that is because they think he's boring or think he's like not interesting as a person. And I mean, you can think that. You're wrong, but you can think that. It becomes hypocritical, I feel, when you take the identity of this character, change one thing about them, and then suddenly they're the most interesting person in the world. And this is exemplified by my case of Grim Dorks, John/Rose versus June/Rose, and how it's treated in the fandom.
Ooh, now this is spicy.
This is a very spicy topic.
So I learned very recently. I haven't been too involved with the Toblerones, and I found out that June was the trans version of Rose.
John.
Of John, June Egbert, and yes, I do remember Rose John. Everyone kind of I shipped that back in the day, and that was kind of shit on. It was considered a bad ship. And
back in the day, it was considered a bad ship because, depending on the time period, you're either shit on because it's first boy, first girl, and haha, how you have vanilla pleb taste.
Even Hussey got in on that.
Yeah, Hussey got in on that too. Or you have Rose with Kanaya later on in the story. And if you ship Rose with anyone other than Kanaya, especially John, you're like a freaking pariah, I've heard the stories about people who get their like grim dorks.
Zamid as they say. And fucking
Something.
hate mobs are real, man.
Zammy Zammy 90 or 91?
No, Zami as in the Steven Universe artist, who also, fun fact, did draw Homestuck back in the day.
Yeah.
Big think.
Yes. That I did follow her, and I was actually. Let's not talk about Zammy, but that was really, really sad. What happened to her? But
basically, there was a dogpiling on people who liked this and made this content because they felt like it was erasing content for Rose. It was erasing her identity as what now is a lesbian for Kanaya, and that was a big point of contention. This followed until the Toblerone thing happened, and I noticed directly after that a lot of Grimdork stuff was showing up, but with the caveat that John was now June, and suddenly everything was fine with that, and that bothered me immensely.
yeah, first off, John Rose is a good ship. I agree. I really think they are, and
They have chemistry.
and it's not a bet. It's not taking away from one ship to ship a character with another. And I really like the Rosemary ship. I like Kanaya and Rose. They're a very good couple in the show. I really like, or not in the show, in Homestuck. I liked it, but I totally agree that now they make John trans, and suddenly this thing that was hated, it's not. It's loved, and that is hypocritical. I haven't thought about that.
It's quite a toxic attitude that it feels like people think there's a limited amount of space for fan content almost.
Which is really, really bizarre, honestly.
That's literally the opposite of what the entirety of, Homestuck for the past few years.
And Homestuck is the one where everything is canon. Like Hussey
Supposedly.
has said, everything technically has happened because the universe that it's within is infinite.
The classic foam spring post. Every fan troll is canon, especially the bad.
But that also means every ship is canon, and also everything is canon. And
Alabaster guy.
the fandom
Heck
just
yeah.
really likes piling on ships, and especially like I think it has something. I think a lot of this has to do with should I say the word? Should I say the magic word? Is Pee Wee Herman gonna jump out if I say the word identity politics?
You said the magic word!
Yeah, there is a lot of identity politics in this, and it's
exhausting.
It is, and I don't. It's like I'm in this weird limbo where it's like, has it gone a little too far here? Like, what makes John Rose inherently worse than June Rose?
I feel
Is
the
there
best
any
argument
difference?
that could be made is the whole lesbian thing, but even then, fan bases haven't really given a shit about canon for a long while, and
I should
say
know
that's
that.
one of the important parts, is to be able to make strange out there stuff.
Yeah, and slash like ships that normally wouldn't like ships that wouldn't happen. I don't know what's a ship that probably would never happen. Jerk Gamzee. Like, I've seen art for that. Yeah. Ugh.
Lord English and Avadia.
Lord, well, no, I've seen that. I've seen plenty of that.
I wish I didn't see that.
Yeah. Steel Corridor has written a lot about that.
Every dark pocket in time shall be filled.
Oh no. Go, shut up, Grell.
You know what that is.
I did. I didn't, and I saw it, and I wish I didn't. But the I don't feel like making a character just whatever is up with the fandom today. It's different than it is now, and I think it's just they're obsessed with this identity politics, and Homestuck has been trending towards identity politics so much. Like back in the day, there's the hussy Twitter or the hussy Formspring post where he's like making a joke, like "Ha, Homestuck is becoming a gay singularity," and honestly, Homestuck has been progressive. Homestuck is progressive for a comic because when it came out, there weren't many comics discussing gay characters. There weren't many discussing bisexuality. Homestuck was going on about that, and it was opening a lot of discussion about that. Ooh,
If you want the most sizzling shit possible, I'd say no person who is genuinely like homophobic would enjoy Homestuck in its entirety, or up until. In fact, no, I'd say someone who's genuinely homophobic would enjoy Homestuck. Period.
no,
Honestly, yeah. And I mean, I've seen polls for the remaining fandom that exists right now. And generally speaking, people don't really seem to mind queer media in Homestuck, which makes sense, considering that there is significant lesbian pair in Homestuck.
An entire binormative race with no real defined gender.
yeah, like the cherubs are actually everyone's had there's everything's been represented. You had the cishets, you had lesbians, gay, trans, bi, or not non-binary with the cherubs, and now they're going around changing everything suddenly for no reason. And
If you want to say like it was always there and you just didn't get it, then for the love of God, explain and don't be a
yeah,
Don't be a self-righteous prick about it when you're explaining how this totally made sense. No, really, you guys, you just didn't see it.
like have you anyone seen that Twitter post? It went around. Terezi's band-aids were covering up hormone shots or something.
What?
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. That the band-aids that Terezi would wear were covering up hormone shots, and she's trans. And then,
the fucking
Trolls, that doesn't even make any sense. You
but
know what makes
Vriska's
sense?
No.
trans now. Remember that?
It just feels so strange.
It feels so
Lord of the
forced.
Flies- Lord of the Flies base
Planet.
And
Like, even if they were, like, where would you get hormone treatments on fucking Alter?
Yeah, aren't there like only children on that planet?
true,
Who
yes,
would trust another troll around them with a sharp object?
yeah.
There's also a point that like I feel if there's any sort of like trans kind of equivalent on Alternia, I honestly think it would be trans blood, not transgender, because gender as a concept doesn't seem that important on Alternia.
I feel like it'd be just
Only
rejecting-
Porum brought it up, and then Porum was shut down by Kankri because like saying you're stupid. Other than that, gender has meant nothing in Troll Society. It's Grell,
It's
you said it's
matriarchal.
it's matriarchal. I called you Grell again. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Like I said,
The god ruler of Alternia for the past few thousand years has been female. You don't even know if there are male fuchsias at all. Has there been an emperor? How long has the empire been going?
yeah,
it
and
existed, yeah.
is there anything? There's nothing wrong with that, but when you're
These
taking
questions will be answered in I'm good, I'm gone. Go read it.
Yeah.
And if these things have been around, and I just don't enjoy taking a character that has kind of been set in stone for a long time, and they just make this happen. They just change who they are. Apparently, John's gonna be trans now, and Brisket is trans or has been trans, and there's
I'll go as far to say I'll accept it when it actually shows up. If you have the stones to show it to
Show don't tell is not a very strong point in new Homestuck, though.
Yeah, I
On about that and
like
a
if you made,
specific fan comic for
if you wanted to make Harry if you wanted to make Harry Anderson or Tavros or Briska 2 or what is it? Briska 64 are we at now? Super Briska 64.
I like my Super Briska 64. It's my favorite game.
But whatever, the Briska clone, the latest one, if you made one of the three new kids trans and like made them struggle with it, I would back that. That's actually kind of cool. And then Calliope saying, "You know what? I'm not really feeling girl. I'm kind of feeling non-binary." Hey, that makes sense.
I spent 13 years with my body shifting every single time I slept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she made the point in the epilogues. They made the point with Caliborn saying, she said she only was a girl because she just was the opposite of Caliborn, who attached himself for no particular reason to masculinity.
It's an interesting dichotomy of how people say. I don't like using analogies to real world situations, but intersex people sometimes, people cope with it in different ways, and that's.
And and that whole issue that was cool, that was organic, but then they forced Roxy to be non-binary, and when they've shown Mom Lalonde and they've shown Roxy and they've shown everything, I never saw any indication that she would be non-binary.
I've read like some responses regarding that, where it's just like, well, yeah, because that happens in real life, where someone can surprise you and turn out that way. I'd like to point out that real life isn't the same as fiction, and when you have insight to characters while you're reading fiction, you get to see things set up if they're actually set up to be seen. That's purposeful narrative writing.
Yeah,
even if it makes sense realistically, it does not make sense narratively. I'd say that's a problem with late Homestuck, really. It's the infamous quote by Mr. Strider.
No.
Real people don't have arcs.
No. I hate it.
Oh no.
That's so bad.
I want to punch his freaking face and shatter his glasses.
I do too, but for a very different reason.
If Homestuck wants trans representation, I don't care. Don't take the care, and it's just Homestuck was written with that not in mind. Hussey didn't write that with that in mind. Which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And I understand that Kate is on the writing team now, and she is trans. She's transgender, and if she wants trans representation, you have introduced 3 new characters, and then you have the entire narrative of Homestuck 2 to introduce more, to come up with a trans character and someone going through that transition. But don't take something that don't take a character that we've known since 2011, that we have worked with. We felt like we knew this character, and then with no warning, no narrative representation, because in stories we can see inside of the characters' minds, and if what they're thinking is relevant to the story at some point, we should hear of it. And then you just say, oh haha, Vriska's trans, haha, John's trans, haha, Roxy's non-binary. I
see that's the problem with the whole Toblerone idea in general, but that's
It's a facilitator for lazy writing.
Yeah. I think, and with the Toblerone thing, I don't know if Hussey was trying to go back towards when he used to take fan inputs from the story, but the way he was doing it with the Toblerones and getting a Homestuck wish granted, that's a recipe for disaster, man. It really is.
Take suggestions, don't take entire plot points.
See, I'm tempted. If Hussey ever comes to the big city that I'm gonna be in, and sets up a Toblerone, I think what I'm gonna do is if I'm going to call off work, whatever, and I find out about it, I'm going to get that Toblerone and I'm gonna wish Homestuck ends. Like Homestuck ends quickly. Just to show how stupid the idea is. Or yeah, I'll come up with some ridiculous wish just to show how stupid that Toblerone wish is. Cause it doesn't. Now I think Hussy's like kind of like sandwiched himself, because even if he doesn't want to turn his characters, the characters he has created and has dominated his life for the better part for over a decade, he doesn't want to turn them into something he doesn't think they are. But now, if he doesn't give in to the turn Johns and Vriska trans, he's a transphobe or something along those lines.
It's strange, the whole canon fan interaction thing, but that's another.
Yeah,
That's a pretty significant topic in of itself, yeah.
Just suffice to say, it feels like a strange storytelling device, and it's a decision that will make you look weird.
They're really silly.
Homestuck is a very silly story.
It used to be really silly and fun, in my opinion.
But now it's silly, and I think I made this. I don't think it's as extreme, but Homestuck has been getting into this, has quickly becoming identity politics and real like it's a political it's becoming a political monologue, and it wasn't. I read Homestuck when I was 13. I read Homestuck because it was cute and funny, and it was a great story. And now Homestuck is this really adult thing, and I don't want to read Homestuck for politics, man. Get it out.
Kids and Fun was always sort of a joke, but it always had a fundamental, I don't want to say innocence, but there's been a massive tone switch.
And
innocent irreverence, I think, is a good way to put it.
Exactly. Homestuck's always been a bit haha, tongue-in-cheek. Even Hussy himself, like, I've seen the guy's entire career from the Gang Bunch days, and he's always been like that, you know?
He has, but I think the difference is that, like, especially when I was reading through it, and I archive read it all the way up to, like, almost the very end. So that was going pretty fast. But at the beginning, and it really feels good because it has that innocent irreverence to it. It doesn't feel malicious in how it treats you when you're reading it.
Yeah.
Like, the story abhors you, the reader, specifically. It's more like the story's playing, like, little pranks on you, and then does something incredible, like when Jack Noir gets the ring, or when Cascade happens, or just everything falling together into a beautiful little package. And you
organized
see from
chaos.
all that organized chaos, you see from all of the crazy, like, pieces of what seem to be meandering bullshit come together into a beautiful picture.
Yeah, now it kind of just seems like Homestuck is the little pranks you mentioned, the little pranks that Homestuck pulls on you. They aren't pranks. They're just done to spite you. Either they're actually done to spite you, or they're done to spite a certain group of the community that they don't like, or they're done to spite X, Y, and Z. And that started with the I think the big shift from that pranking you and, like, playing with the reader a little bit to spiting the reader started happening when with the Mina walkarounds. What are they called?
Openbound?
Openbound, yeah. And now it's just straight up, you don't fucking like our pranks? Fuck you. Here's something to spite you. Here's Dave Cat when nobody wants Dave Cat. Haha.
Oh, that's a spicy take right there.
And Homestuck's done that, and I feel like, and then it's becoming politically, it's really politically loaded, and I like I said, I don't like that, and I want to compare a little bit to Sinfest. Uh,
Ooh.
I not 1-to-1, obviously, not 1-to-1, but Sinfest started off as a fun comic, and is now a swerf and turf, uh, ideology monologue. It's incredibly offensive. It's horrible. It's a man's weird obsession with this. It's obsessive. Homestuck is not to the level of that, but it's gone from fun comic to way more politically charged. It has a obvious agenda of identity politics, and I don't want to read Homestuck for identity politics, man.
I wish like all of them felt like they were friends.
I
Really
Yeah.
was here
each
for the
other.
kids, the fun, and the unrelenting horror.
The unrelenting horror and adventure that they're going through as these kids who are friends, or at least trying to be friends with each other, trying to help each other
So it's like
get through this hell game.
It's not even like, oh, it's haha, light-hearted, funny. Like Homestuck gets fucking dark at points. Even if you look beneath the surface, like Skya, timelines, determinism has always been something that's frightening to me.
All right.
Yeah.
Do we have any more final words on this fandom hypocrisy?
Ugh.
Don't be a dick about things.
Yeah.
Can we go back to like the early 2000s when everyone just kind of stayed in their lane and had a good time?
Yeah. Maybe.
I miss
Unfortunately,
those
Now,
days.
let's
it's
just get
fucking
time
horrible.
powers and do that. All right. Now for our next segment. Let's do a tier list of John's ships. So here we have all of our ships. We have our tier list. This is a brand new tier list that we've come up with. We're starting off with lemon tier, and then we're going to apple, orange, lime, and peach. With peach obviously being the worst, because I don't like peaches, man. Peaches.
I don't know. I could eat a peach all day.
I mean, I am. I guess you're feeling pretty peachy, girl, or Sahxyel. So let's start. So let's start off with our ships here. We got John. For what we have here is we have most of the characters who have interacted with John. I think I have and all the 8 main kids minus John himself, and we have.
Main trolls.
Oh, I'm missing Jake actually. No, I left Jake out because I don't think Jake incest would work too well. I never thought of that as I have never seen a John X Jake, but most of these people have had conversations with John.
Don't be silly. Jake doesn't get to have good things.
So let's start with Aradia. Where would we put Aradia? Or wait, is it Aradia? What do we call her?
I say Aradia. I know some people say Aradia.
All right, I'll adopt Aradia for
Ara.
consistency's sake. Ara.
Arara.
Where is Aradia? Where does she go? What would you say? I feel I haven't seen much. I don't feel like it'd be the best ship. It seems orange tier.
Yeah, it wouldn't be awful, but I don't really see that they would have a lot of things in common per se,
They
and they don't really talk.
she'd be a
think
good
it was
ship with
just-
Jake, but not John.
Oh,
The god
Jake
tier
and Aradia would be pretty lit, honestly.
All right. Now Arania or Arania. How do we call? What do we call her? Whatever. Spider bitch.
circuits. Spider bitches don't deserve good things. Cast them into the pit.
Come into the pit.
You're saying peach tier?
I'm saying spider genocide.
I'd
rid of
say
them all.
lime tier for her
I
because I actually like her with Jake a little more. TBH.
like
Sexy blue woman.
I like John and Arania. But it seems like I would say apple tier, but we got a lime and a peach tier, so I'll stick it on lime. Dave! Everyone likes this ship. This is a classic ship. What do we put him?
Peach tier, because John is not a homosexual.
Yeah,
I'm not a homosexual.
I agree. John is not a homosexual.
Now,
Even
this
if he
is like
was, he'd be
for
all about getting that peach anyway.
this is for John specifically, and I say that because I feel like John will not reciprocate romantically with the male characters. He never has that kind of relationship with anybody, like romantic chemistry for me to be like, oh yeah, I could see that.
I actually do agree. Dirk, he's had no real chemistry with. I've never heard him see him talk. I mean, I guess we could put these characters into Peach tier immediately, because has John actually talked with Gamzee, Equius, Solux, or Eridan at all?
I mean, he did talk with Gamzee in the epilogues, but it was not favorable, and he did not like Gamzee. So,
And it definitely wasn't
Yeah.
even. And this is for like red. This is for black or red. I
are
don't,
we doing quadrants? Because I wasn't doing I wasn't doing quadrants, tbh.
I mean, I'm saying irrelevant of quadrant. Is there a good romantic ship with John? I think I should have, since we're doing quadrants, we gotta explain that. And let's not even get into the nonsense of
Black romance versus flush romance, right?
no, I was saying the nonsense of the 9 quadrants of
Oh,
how the felt.
yeah.
Fuck the no, not that. But Dirk, has there been any talk? There hasn't been much interaction with these 5 characters: Dirk, Gamzee, Equius, Solux, or Eridan. I feel like those can go Peach tier because we don't know what it goes with. We don't know anything about those relationships, and also John's not a homosexual.
John is not a homosexual.
Dave, we could have something, but they've always given off we're friends, and I don't see them romantically. I agree with Sahxyel here.
Well,
Only
I'm of the
reciprocated feelings.
weird thing where I think it's one-sided. I think Dave was signaling that he really liked John during the earlier acts.
Yeah,
But
Suppose in a way you could say that's a good. I mean, it's a good dynamic, but it's not a good ship.
I guess.
well, it's not a good ship because I don't think John would actually reciprocate that, and that's unfortunate on Dave's part. Maybe that's why he never actually would admit anything to John,
And
at least in my viewpoint.
I
Could
always
be.
thought of Dave as straight, honestly.
I know that fucking feeling, man.
He never felt even the slightest bit gay to me, at least while I was reading as a child or as a teenager. I don't know if that says anything about me, but I never felt it. But I definitely can get behind what Sahxyel's talking about here. I agree with this. Shall we? Tart, do you have anything to say about Dave or any of the other guys?
Not so far, honestly.
All right. So Dave and John are pretty peachy, I think. What about John and Fef?
They've literally never spoken, have they?
They've never spoken to each other.
Peachy, peachy, peachy.
Now, Peachy, looking at their personalities, would you see anything between them?
Pfeffer's like too much like Jade, I think. And him and Jade, some people have said that him and Jade have like chemistry, but I never felt that they had romantic chemistry personally.
I feel they're a bit too similar. Like,
Like,
Is
I
there-
feel like she'd probably get on his nerves, honestly, because Jade seems to kind of get on his nerves too, especially on the 3-year trip.
Mm-hmm.
to channel my inner car cat for a moment, I feel like romance is weird in that it needs both common ground and people to be very different.
Yeah.
I don't know why I put this up here. Why I put Jane on here. I think
No, gosh,
Peach.
please.
Peach. All right.
Stupid.
No, not one,
No.
please.
What was it? Fat, ugly, or goes and Pete. Caliban was right.
Caliborn was right. Gosh,
Of all the
it just
world,
like she.
I'm gonna ban the saddest of these. Caliborn was right to.
What about Jade? What do you think, Jade? I think there is some chemistry. I felt a little chemistry, and yes, it's a little bit of incestuous. Uh, this isn't a permanent holding, but I felt like there's always the it kind of feels like girl next door type vibes.
Yeah.
You're teenagers. I going into my own personal things. I had flings with the girl next door, and I never really liked her. But there's something. I maybe it just touches on me. There's something with, that girl that you are kind of forced to be around with, having that somewhat romantic connection with. I don't know.
That kind of hurts because I really identify with Jade. Oof.
So
That
that's
hurts
why
a
I
lot
always say
for
it's
me.
not a good ship, but I see it as a ship, and I see it could work. That's how I say lime, but what would you guys say? Peach, orange?
Yeah, you
I feel
won
like
me over. Lime.
I think Lime is probably a good place for it because they do seem to like care about each other, and if go by how they interact, at least before they know that they're related,
Yeah.
they're very cute together. They don't, I feel, have as much chemistry as a different character though when they talk. But we'll get to that character when we get to them.
Now, what about Kanaya? I think this is also a low tier ship.
I think this goes on Peach on basis of Kanaya is not a heterosexual.
We've got
Yeah,
to stay consistent.
You gotta be consistent.
yeah. I don't feel they've never had any connection. I haven't felt like anything like that. So yeah, Kanaya, yeah, not a good ship. Carcat.
Now, he was probably a quite spicy one. I actually quite like this.
Oh, oh. So he's
Wow.
not. What would you say this? What would you put Carcat at?
As we all know, Jonathan is not a home of sexual, but no, I just feel there's a bit more there than anything else.
It was like Sahxyel, you mentioned that if there was any little lime tier for right now, you said there was some feeling between unreciprocated feelings between John and Dave, but Dave never would have said anything. But Carcat did say something.
Carcat did say something. I will give him props for actually saying something. Although he got shut down.
Just shot down fast and hard, and just like
Give him a spot up for having the ball.
Yeah, I'd give him a like prop up just for like trying. He gets the little star for not being in Peach tier with literally everybody else.
at least gives you something to think about. Like
I mean,
it gives you the
dynamics-wise, it was popular for a reason.
Yeah, and
even
you
if
do.
it was eventually subsumed by the Dave Cat.
Oh, Dave Cat. That is a.
This is like a Dave topic again.
We could do a whole episode on Dave Cat. John Mina. How about that?
She's such a bitch. I don't like Mina.
I love Mina, honestly. I really love Mina. Mina, I think works with a lot of people, honestly, because I always thought of Mina as chadish, and I think they had a decent.
Chadette.
All right, a little bit of a technical difficulty there. John and Mina. What do we think of?
Mina's a strange one, and she's a bit of a chadette, honestly.
I thought of her. I've always thought of her as a chav, like a British chav, whereas Candace is like ghetto.
I'd say, yeah, fair enough. She's always a bit more in your face and stereotypical.
I don't know if I
masculine.
like her with John though, because my freaking favorite ship with Mina is Mina Cat.
That's also my favorite Mina ship. But I felt something there. I feel like Mina, just how Mina works is she could make almost any relationship, any ship work. I kind of want to say like kind of like a Poramish type. She could make it work. It might not be good, but I think it can make it work and exist. Even though she is a bitch, but I just love Mina. I love her attitude.
Uh, yeah, maybe like a low mid.
Low to mid, maybe an orange tier.
Orange tier is fine with me, I think.
An orange.
I don't like Mina as a character for a few reasons, but like I do respect you guys and your takes on this. Plus, I kind of feel the same way that I do about Aradia and John too, where I'm just like,
Kind of carbon neutral.
yeah, that sounds about right.
It's complete crack, but
I mean,
if you were a good writer, but then again, I suppose if you're a good writer, you can make literally anything.
now,
Oh yeah,
now, how about John Nepeta?
Dear sweet Nepeta,
I feel like Nepeta
yeah.
could be just a really good wife. I think she's high tier for anybody. She's
Yeah,
a good ship
sweet
with
Nepeta.
almost anybody.
she's the friendly kitty cat girl.
Yeah.
But would she have chemistry with John is the question, and I feel like with him, he would like her because she's cute and nice as a troll, which he isn't really exposed to in Homestuck. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he sort of just says trolls suck because they're asshole.
Okay,
Which they
the
are.
asshole ones are the ones that like actually talk to him, and he doesn't really get to talk to Nepeta or Fafri too much. I just
He is
didn't
on,
think
like,
that
more than
Fafri would really
91.
work with him.
I feel like John Nepeta could grow on John. I mean, John obviously isn't against furries because he spent. I'm gonna put her Apple tier for right now. She put a lot of. He spent a lot of time with Jade. He wasn't even like freaking out that she was a furry. I feel like Nepeta can be annoying, but I just feel like Nepeta could grow on John. Really. I would say orange to apple tier.
I actually am leaning towards orange, but she's high orange in my opinion.
What about you, Tart? I'm saying apple. We got orange. What do you think?
I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, she's similar but distinct, which I think is a good quality. But, it's also crack as hell, so.
It's a crack ship, but sometimes those are the best ships. How do we throw it at apple tier? We need something up there.
Well, I was saving apple tier because I noticed the 4 characters we have left on the list.
That wasn't planned, by the way. That's just alphabetical. Orange tier for Nepeta? Alright.
I still think she's high orange.
High orange. There, high orange. Can we throw an
Yeah,
orange
there we go.
plus? Or what's a fruit that's a cross between an orange and an apple? I know they've come up with them. Has to exist.
Citruses and apples aren't the same things, though.
But there's like an apple grape, isn't there? A grapple?
I actually
Or was
don't
that
know.
made up? I don't know. There's a lot of fruit hybrids that shouldn't exist but do. Now,
Good old-
Rose. Now, we just had a whole conversation about this.
There's the golden orange apple, but that's like just a really weird culture. Not a true hybrid.
Now, here's a really, like, I don't know if it's a spicy take, but I feel like Rose had one of the best chemistries with John.
Yeah.
Like, the way they talk to each other, the way they interact with each other, it's very nice, honestly.
And I found it really cute when Dave was kind of talking about was it Dave or Carcat kind of talking about the fact that we're related and like, oh hey, John, you might have to shack up with Rose because I'm related to Rose and I can't take her. And he's like, oh, he seemed kind of excited about it, and I was like,
He was
And
a
then-
little weirdly fixated on it, which was pretty cute,
yeah.
in my opinion.
It's like, well, I mean, that's kind of what a 13-year-old would do if you said, hey, when it comes down to it, you get to make babies with this girl, and he's like, oh, and he probably hasn't, oh,
Oh, I never thought about that.
I liked her, but I didn't know I would have to make babies with her, huh? Yeah, that's.
Yeah, wow.
I put that up. I put this ship up at Apple tier, and fuck the fandom for saying that. Now,
I think that's fair. Yeah, they complement each other quite well.
I wish there was more into it, but nah.
Unfortunately, like most of the really great stuff between Rose and John happens in earlier Homestuck, so you can't exactly place her in Lemon tier, especially later on.
And then
But
then she finds Kanaya, and then she becomes an alcoholic, and then she dies, and then they go back.
Remember, kid, you can fix alcoholism by just slapping a drink out of someone's hand.
Yeah,
Yep, that's how that works.
that's exactly how that works.
Now, you said that because it happened quite early on, there's puts it down a peg now, moving on.
Now,
What
yeah,
about this one?
Roxy. I enjoy Roxy. This is one of my favorite ships. Roxygen is a top tier ship, I think.
Roxy and John are really cute together when they actually get to, talk to each other and be allowed to be themselves.
That segment was really just sort of a highlight of Act 6.
And then
Late Act 6.
and then there was that when she's like note to self, totes Mac on. I really like that. How she's like scoping John out while he's just blah 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 blah-ing.
God, imagine being Roxy. Your only friends who are around that you with your teenage hormones can fixate on are Jake, Dirk, and then your friend Jane. And
Yeah.
you really, really like Dirk, but he's never gonna like you.
He's gay as fuck.
Gay.
He's
And
gay.
he likes other guy that you might be wanting to go after, but Dirk wants him first, and then your best gal pal wants him too. So you can't go after him. And then here comes John,
Who's like
Okay.
Jake.
who
It's
looks like
but
Jake.
he's less of a dumbass.
He's slightly less of a dumbass.
He's still a dumbass, but he's not like 2-digit IQ.
He actually can function and do things. In fact, he does he's like the guy who makes sure that everything happens to where they can finish the game after like all hope is basically lost and game over happens.
And I know it's a thing. Girls do dig power sometimes. Sahxyel opinion on that. Like
Power sexy.
yeah. John is the most powerful man in the multiverse, in the narrative.
Man Grit Supreme lives up to the Egbert name.
I know John doesn't do anything with it because he got done
Like-
dirty, but he's still very powerful.
Actually, that makes him more attractive because then you can trust him not to use it for sinister purposes. He is very husband material.
Yep.
With great power comes great
Dad.
responsibility.
Dad is a fucking uber Chad, and I like to think he'd be proud of his boy.
Yeah.
What about Terezi here?
Terepi.
I like this ship. I think this is a apple or lemon tier.
Well, yeah, it is apple or lemon tier because they do have chemistry.
As like fucking.
it's good.
spicy
It's
man.
good, kind of like clean black chemistry, and I honestly see some parallels to it in me and my girlfriend's relationship. And I really enjoy that. That sort of it's black in that it's teasing, kind of skate like, kind of get on each
Snarky.
other's. Yeah, it's really snarky, but they care about each other. That's a great term, snarky. And
Yeah.
I want to put it up in S tier, honestly. Or
I
not
would
S
be
tier,
against
lemon
that.
tier.
As
Yeah.
spicy as my Terezi opinions are, I can't deny that it's very good.
Yeah.
Good
Like,
actor.
I do have some crazy opinions too, but like they do have like an undeniable chemistry. So you can sit there and go, well, I could talk about Terezi as a person, but I'm talking about her relationship with John, and as far as a like pitch romance goes, yeah, it's probably like one of the better examples of a pitch romance in the story.
It's not archetypal like Snowman and Slick, but and now
Her.
Oh,
problem.
I wanted to say one last thing about Terezi though. I will say this is actually one of the bright spots of later Homestuck, the Terezi John relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Even,
liked it, and
Even do what I say aside, like
he
funny
wanted to
laws.
do what she said. She was like, "I'll do what she says." Oh yeah, and then in the epilogue, first off, Terezi is the only person that John has any real has like. It's Roxy and Terezi, the only people in the stories that John has any intercourse with at all. Kiss, holding hands, eye contact.
Raw dogging in the back of a car.
Yep. Performing surgery on each other. It's one of the only times John has interacted with a human romantically, or not a human, a character interacted romantically. I love it, and it's definitely one of the bright spots of later Homestuck. And then
Blind girl, nice ass. Blind girl, nice shit.
Yep, I agree. Now, this
The
one.
problem.
Oh boy.
The problem child.
What was that? What Nightfall? Did anyone read that fan adventure?
I tried to read Nightfall. I got in like about 20 pages and stopped.
I read it with friends, and like honestly, it's a lot better if you can just laugh at the quirks of it with other.
And
like, art's good, dialogue's okay, but like it gets quite silly.
And then isn't there? There's also the fan venture. There's the fan species that are like called shinobi or some shit. They're
Alien ninja people.
Yeah.
I know that Nightfall is like the premier like John Vriska story though, right?
It is.
But like honestly, I say compared to the Doom John and the Dead Vriska, I'd say that's like it's. I hate this huge bitch with all my heart, but like can't deny it.
Honestly, I really wish that was the last time we saw Dead Vriska for the Game Over timeline was her with Dream John or Dead John, because that was really nice, that whole segment. But bewilderingly, she just isn't with him anymore.
Yeah.
When, we come around to Act 6 and everything, and then, that John ends up getting vaporized by Lord English, and Vriska becomes parentheses Vriska.
And we get something quite strange. Hold on, let me pull something up.
Alright. I'm going to put her in lemon tier for right now. Subject change, but I think that's a lemon tier. I was a John Briss ship from right off the bat. I really liked John Briss, and then it just kind of stopped happening, and I forgot about it, but I still liked it. And that's when I started reading Nightfall. Man, I was like, oh, I can dig this. Oh, ninja aliens, but it's John Briss. Okay, let's keep going.
Let's keep going and
Yes,
see
I
what
can't
happens.
find it.
And then eventually I just said, you know what? I think I just got busy. I don't think I ever stopped reading it because I didn't like it. I stopped reading it because I just stopped reading in everything in general.
That's fair.
I Yeah. Have you pulled up what you need to pull up, Tart?
Can't find it, unfortunately.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But
But
yeah, John versus in top tier. Dickola, you're probably watching this, so please don't kill me, because I put your favorite ship up.
I think this is a very solid tier list. John is not a homosexual, as you can tell. All male ships.
Except for that one car cat.
Carcat had the balls, had the cojones, the huevos to do it. To actually ask him out.
Oh,
But,
so he gets the Aridin award then, right?
yes, he did. Well, Aridin shotgunned it. He just asked everybody out. I don't think
No,
Aridin.
but the significant one was with Pfeffery.
True.
What I mean, though, is like you get some props for coming out like that.
Better not. Yeah, at least you're not. At least nobody can say.
You're
Damn.
Jane.
Yeah, or I was about to say you're a bitch, but yeah, you're Jane. At least you're better than Jane. All
At least
right.
You've got balls or ovaries, if situation needs be. You don't fucking know which rules, do you?
No, I don't. Now, I think that about wraps up the podcast. This tier list is 100% official. All other opinions are wrong, by the way. If you have another opinion, please write it in the comments and fight about it.
As the
Fine.
largest member of this podcast, physically, if you disagree with this, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to throw you out your...
Defenestrate them, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna make Prague look like a fucking...
Cakewalk. All right. Well, this has been Fruity Rumpus Asshole Podcast, and I'm Khan,
I'm Sahxyel.
I'm Tart.
and we're signing off.